A crucial U.S. warship has been on fire for nearly 3 days and may be damaged beyond repair after a mishap at a dry dock. Here is what you need to know. The Navy says the fire aboard the USS Bonhomme Richard reportedly began in the lower vehicle storage area and led to an internal explosion at 8:30 a.m. on Sunday. Firefighters are still battling the flames as the ship remains at Naval Base San Diego. The cause of the fire is unknown. Bonhomme Richard is named after Benjamin Franklin's pen name and is one of the 8 Wasp-class amphibious attack ships in the Navy. Speaking at a news event, Rear Admiral Philip Sobeck says the fire damaged the front deck and superstructure and collapsed the front mast. The ship is without munitions but has 1 million gallons of fuel 2 decks below the flames. The Pacific Fleet says 59 sailors and civilians are non-critically injured. In response to towering smoke columns from the ship, San Diego County has issued an air quality alert for sensitive groups. Defense News reports the warship was about to complete upgrades for operating F-35 jets. According to the Navy, the ship's Halon fire suppression system had been disengaged because it was undergoing maintenance. Presumably, that's because ships weren't supposed to catch on fire while in maintenance. Then again, when are ships supposed to catch on fire? According to Sobeck, Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 3 Seahawks dropped 415 buckets of water on the vessel, and 400 sailors are fighting to save the ship. In a separate statement, San Diego Fire Department Chief Colin Stowell, whose firefighters are helping the effort, told CNN that the ship could burn, quote, down to the water lines. Defense News reports that the fire damage to the Bonhomme Richard, let alone its potential destruction, is a major blow to the U.S. military preparedness in the Pacific. The fire can't come at a worse time for the U.S., for China has been ratcheting up military pressure against its neighbors in the South China Sea. 2 U.S. aircraft carriers conducted drills at the South China Sea in a significant show of force, according to the Navy. CNN reports that the exercise on July 4th was the first in 6 years to involve dual U.S. carrier strike groups in the maritime region. The carriers transited from the Philippine Sea for drills that were seen as a challenge to China's own drills at the Paracel Islands, which saw the firing of an anti-ship missile the previous day. U.S. Navy Institute News reports that Chinese warships observed the carriers. The U.S. carrier strike force consisted of the nuclear-powered warriors Nimitz and Reagan, with more than 60 aircraft each, supported by Arleigh Burke-class guided missiles destroyers and Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruisers. The Paracel Islands are an archipelago in the disputed South China Sea. China has laid claims to the region. Areas of the South China Sea are also claimed by Taiwan, the Philippines, and Vietnam. The South China Sea is strategically important because it is one of the world's busiest maritime regions. The dueling exercises were followed by a war of words. China's state-run Global Times tweeted, "The U.S. carriers are at the pleasure of the PLA." The U.S. Navy responded by saying, "And yet, there they are."
Amidst a deadly global pandemic, China is planning to rattle sabers against Taiwan with major military exercise, according to the Japanese press. China's People Liberation Army Navy plans to conduct a large-scale amphibious assault drill off Hainan Island in August. Citing unnamed Chinese sources, the Japan Times reports the drill will involve landing ships, hovercraft, and helicopters, while the carrier Shandong has been deployed in Hainan since December last year. According to the Japan Times, the exercise is designed to simulate a Navy and Marines attack on the Taiwan-held Pratas, a strategically important islet that sits astride China's military egress from Hainan to the Pacific Ocean. Tensions between Beijing and Taipei rose after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen was elected into office in 2016, on a wave of popular anger against the pro-Beijing policies of her predecessor Ma Ying-jeou. According to Reuters, Taiwan in April announced plans to buy arms from France to upgrade its fleet of 6 French-made Lafayette-class frigates. Responding to protests from Beijing, France's foreign ministry suggests China should focus on battling COVID-19 instead. En anglais, it means go pound the sand. The U.S. Naval Institute reports a U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer made a transit through the Taiwan Strait to warn Beijing's leadership against taking aggressive action in the region. The Japan Times reports U.S. electronic warfare aircraft may have passed the strait 14 times in April alone. According to Taiwan's state-run Central News Agency, a Chinese Y-8 aircraft flew into Taiwan's air defense identification zone before being headed off by fighter jets on April 8th. This is the 7th time Chinese military planes flew near Taiwan's airspace this year. As the world is distracted by the coronavirus pandemic, China has stepped up military activities all over the place aimed at intimidating or provoking its neighbors. There was Monday's attack in the Himalayas that left 20 Indian soldiers dead at last count and dozens missing. Pressures in Malaysia and Indonesia in the South China Sea, the ramming of a Vietnamese fishing boat last week. But we're particularly worried about what now looks like a deliberate pattern of escalations over the Taiwan Strait. Here is what you need to know. Taiwan's Air Force on June 17th again warned off Chinese warplanes that approached the country, the Defense Ministry said, reporting the fourth such intrusion in just 9 days. The Chinese J-10, a fighter jet, and Y-8, a turboprop surveillance aircraft, entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone to the southwest of the country on Wednesday. Taiwanese fighter planes issued a verbal warning to the Chinese aircraft to leave, and the Chinese planes immediately left the air defense identification zone. The latest incursion came just 1 day after a J-10 fighter entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone from the southwest. It was issued radio warnings to leave and then escorted out of Taiwanese airspace. That followed a flight in the same area on June 12th by a Chinese Y-8, which was issued a verbal warning by Taiwan's Air Force to leave its airspace. The Y-8 flight came only a few hours after Taiwan announced it had conducted missile tests at 2 locations off its eastern coast. Taiwan did not say what missiles were tested, but Tiancong-3 surface-to-air missiles and Yongfeng land attack cruise missiles were tested in the same area in April. Such incursions were rare until a year ago, when in March of 2019, 2 Chinese J-11 fighter jets crossed over the median line in the Taiwan Strait for the first time in years. Beijing also sailed its Shandong aircraft carrier through the strait in December, shortly before Taiwan's presidential election. For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.